Hello and welcome to the first tutorial on sketching and positioning. Throughout this video, I'm going to show you the required steps, supplies, techniques, and some bonus tips in order to sketch from a reference. The first step, preparing your workspace. For this project, I'm using Arteco Watercolor Premium, acid-free, heavyweight, cold-pressed, and medium coarse grain paper. I personally prefer to use paper that is cold pressed and medium grain. You can use any type of watercolor paper, just make sure the grain is not too big. Take a board or any flat surface, then tape down your sheet of paper. This is a very good technique I use, especially for painting, to prevent the paper from warping. The tape I use is nothing special, just a plain masking tape. Be sure not to use sticky tape, for it will ruin your paper. You will also need a pencil, obviously, and a ruler. The sketch for a watercolor painting needs to be as light as possible, so use the lightest pencil you have. I'm using a 3H pencil, but you can even use an HB. Just keep in mind to sketch very lightly and to keep it nice and sharp. And an eraser, of course. Second step, the guidelines. Looking at a reference photo for today's project, start by editing grid lines onto the image, which you are now going to line out onto your watercolor paper. And to do that, you measure the length and the width of the paper. Dividing the measurements by 3, you then very lightly mark out those points around the edges of the paper. Then lining them together. Third step, starting with the biggest shapes. This is the most tricky yet most important part of the whole process, where your eyes are constantly jumping back and forth from reference to paper while sketching as softly and lightly as possible. This part does not have to be perfect. You will be touching up as you go through the details later on. We have now reached the fourth step, which is the starting point. It is now time to add the details from the reference, starting from top to bottom, from the beak all the way down to the tail. Thanks to the help of the guidelines and overall shape, I can now pinpoint where the details go. Sorry, I apologize for my arm's shadow. The key thing about this process is take your time, and you can shape up and change things as you go, adding as much detail as you can. It does not require shading, so no need to overthink it. Just lines and taps are necessary. always start the eyes with a huge circle. To get the fine details, use a tapping technique to get the really light and fine feathers. Guidelines are so amazing. I dread doing the feet. It never looks good. If there is something in the sketch that you never like, you can always just fix it up later on with the painting. Now it's time to be creative. My plan is to add some rainy weather to the scenery. It will also give it some more character. Here is the reference I'm working with. You can find it in the description in case you're interested. A lot of these I'm doing on my own, so this is more like a doodle for me, which is a great way to explore and try out new things. I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to fix that foot very soon. If you want to see it being fixed, stay in tuned for the next video. The fifth step is erasing the excess pencil. This includes the grid lines and the pencil markings that came out a bit too dark. I use this pressable eraser specifically for this purpose. Rolling it very gently across the surface helps pick up all the pencil pigments.